Hey everyone, welcome to the third and final part of my series, How Fast Are Fate Characters? In my previous videos, I covered every major travel and combat speed feat in the franchise up to the speed of light. In this final installment, we're going deep. I'll be breaking down how faster-than-light speed works within the Fate universe, identifying which characters have actually reached that level, and addressing some common misconceptions regarding Fate Wank. However, before we begin, I need to establish a baseline for how the speed of light works in the real world. Can you keep up with me? As some of you might have deduced from my previous videos, the Fate universe is actually more grounded than it seems. The speed of light is treated as a universal constant, a hard limit that cannot be surpassed according to our current understanding of physics. In the real world, this is governed by the theory of special relativity. It dictates that as an object approaches light speed, its time slows down and its mass energy increases exponentially. But the reason this theory is so crucial for today's topic is the time paradox factor. According to these equations, if an object were to exceed the speed of light, the resulting space-time dilation would theoretically allow it to arrive at its destination before it even departed. In other words, according to special relativity, moving faster than light is functionally equivalent to time travel. On the other hand, there is the theory of general relativity. According to this theory, gravity isn't just an arbitrary pulling force, but rather the result of a physical curvature in the fabric of space-time itself. Every object with mass, whether it's an ant or a star, disturbs this fabric around it, much like a heavy ball placed on a trampoline. This forces everything else, including light, to follow the resulting curves. The more mass and density an object has, the stronger the gravitational influence it exerts. You can picture this like a slope that gets steeper the heavier you are. If you aren't very massive, the slope is practically horizontal. However, the more mass you have, the steeper the incline becomes and the faster you'd have to run to reach the top. This is the essence of a planet's escape velocity. The reason black holes are so imposing is that their density is so high that the escape velocity at their event horizon equals the speed of light. Moreover, since the curvature they cause is so extreme, that slope keeps getting steeper the deeper you go. This is why once you fall past the event horizon, escape becomes impossible. It's a phenomenon similar to Gojo's infinity, you could say. Inside a black hole, space elongates infinitely, meaning you would need to move at infinite speed to escape from the singularity at its center. Finally, I want to touch on time dilation. As I mentioned, mass distorts space and time, not just the former. Following our slope metaphor, the steeper the gravity, the slower time flows. Because of this, what may seem like 3 seconds to someone at point A could be perceived as hundreds of years by someone at point B. This phenomenon was a key plot point in Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, which I highly recommend. With the pretentious science lecture out of the way, let's do a quick refresher. As BB explains during the Seraph Singularity, even an A-rank servant cannot move faster than light. Doing so would be fatal. The lore implication here, while not explicitly confirmed, is that since servants are composed of spiritrons, which behave similarly to photons, their spirit origins would simply shatter if they attempted to cross that threshold. We see this play out in Olympus. Even one of the Dioscuri twins, the Greek gods of light themselves, nearly died just attempting to exceed that speed. Furthermore, in the Heian-Kyo Lost Belt, Sion explains that the black barrel wouldn't work on the alien god. Why? Because she can manifest black holes, constructs with a gravitational pull so intense that not even light can escape. Sion notes that based on humanity's current understanding of physics, nothing can surpass that limit. Therefore, the black barrel is unable to measure the life scale of an entity that defies those laws. The fact that 99% of the Fate multiverse caps at light speed is remarkably consistent across Prototype, Stay Night, Zero, Apocrypha, Strange Fake, and Grand Order. I've already covered those feats in detail, so I won't repeat myself, but the author's intent is clear. Characters consistently operate at supersonic or hypersonic speeds. BB outright states FTL is a death sentence, and the black barrel fails against anyone who can weaponize that universal constant. Now, we can finally discuss who actually breaks the light barrier. First, let's focus on combat speed. The first attack ever confirmed to be faster than light is Meltrilus and Passionlip's combined Noble Phantasm, Virgin Laser Palladian. During the Seraph Singularity, they used it to escape Kiara by literally traveling back in time. However, this feat left Meltrilus severely weakened, barely able to fight. This was our first direct look at superluminal speeds operating under the laws of special relativity, and proof that such speeds are far too taxing for even top-tier servants to handle. That said, the first characters confirmed to be capable of FTL movement on their own are the Dioscuri. Specifically, this applies to their true Greek god forms, before they were killed by Kirshtaria and degraded into divine spirits. As servants, they still retain the authority to move that fast, but as we saw in Olympus, doing so is now a fatal strain on their spirit graphs. Next, we have the beam of light fired by Chaos during the climax of Lost Belt 5. This attack was explicitly stated to move faster than light, possessing an authority that surpassed even Prime Apollo. The only characters capable of reacting to it were Machine God Ares and Grand Lancer Romulus Quirinus. Everyone else, including Mash, Musashi, and Tennis, was completely perception blitzed, left clueless as to how Ares suddenly vanished. Keep in mind this happened even though Mash and Musashi had been previously buffed by nanomachines to keep up with the Dioscuri's base light speed. In Lost Belt 7, we also have Yu Olga Marie and her Tachyon Jail. This is one of her 7 super authorities, allowing her to manipulate tachyons, theoretical particles that always travel faster than light. The time dilation within her domain is so extreme that it made the entire world, including ORT, appear frozen in time. On the other hand, we have Ishtar Ashtart. During the climax of Saber Wars 2, Ishtar Ashtart threw Ashtart Origin a whole parsec away, a distance approximately equal to 3.26 light-years. Ishtar Ashtart then finished her off with a galaxy-sized bullet. In Ordeal Call, we also see BB Dubai launch regular BB into outer space, so fast that she crossed past Mars in a matter of seconds. The minimum distance between Earth and Mars is 54.6 million kilometers, so assuming it took her 10 seconds to get that far, that would give us a speed of over 18 times that of light. Finally, the last character confirmed to fight at superluminal speeds is Santa Karna. Interestingly, as a saber, Karna fights with his fists. Without his massive spear, which was apparently heavy enough to slow him down, his punches at maximum speed officially exceed the speed of light. With combat feats out of the way, we can move on to travel speed. The first major feat here comes from Fate Extra CCC's True Ending. During this climax, Kiara throws the protagonist's servant, be it Gilgamesh, Tamamo, Nameless, or Nero, depending on the route, to a Spirit Run world located in the Horsehead Nebula, 1,500 light-years away from the moon cell. However, the servants return shortly after by activating their mythological mystic codes. Furthermore, Kiara is actually surprised they can move faster than light, wondering how they were able to pull it off. This is the first red flag that debunks the idea of immeasurable speed. These characters had been fighting on the far side of the moon, a realm and imaginary number space that exists outside of time, throughout the entire game. If they already had immeasurable speed, FTL movement wouldn't have surprised her. To understand how they achieved this, we have to look at the mechanics. As explained in Koha Ace XP, this wasn't achieved through raw movement, but through a specific ability, Warp. For those who don't know, Warp, Wapu in Japanese, is essentially teleportation. It functions similarly to Kurogiri's quirk from My Hero Academia or Goku's instant transmission. As implied by Kama in her interlude, it works by creating a subspace between 2 points, effectively a wormhole. Moving through that subspace allows you to bypass the distance. This is what Tamamo meant in her route by reducing the distance to 0 between the Horsehead Nebula and the moon cell. These servants didn't run 1,500 light-years because they are that fast. They utilized a specific teleportation mechanic instead. Furthermore, as I mentioned earlier, special relativity suggests FTL travel equals time travel. Sure enough, Mysterious Heroine X confirms that machines capable of warping can also function as time machines. This is our second major instance of superluminal speeds aligning with real-life relativity. Now let's look at the major instances of warping. First, we have the buffed servants from CCC. Then, we have the spaceships of the Servant universe. MHX mentions that interstellar travel is generally impossible without FTL capabilities. Servantverse characters like Ashtart can warp to the FGO timeline, though this is usually done with the backup of their ships. It's more like the ship remotely teleports them, rather than the ability being natural to their own bodies. In the main Fate timeline, we have Ishtar. When she uses her noble phantasm, she actually warps to the planet Venus. Not the one in modern day, but the version from the Age of Gods. Warping, enabling not only space travel but time travel as well, explains how the Ishtar in Strange Fake was able to steal the Gugalana from the FGO Ishtar, which is why she couldn't summon it during the Babylonia Singularity. We also see Lev Lainur pull this off in the FGO, opening a warp gate from Fuyuki to Chaldea. This was a miniature version of the warp gate Beast One planned to use to travel back in time to the genesis of Earth 4.6 billion years ago. Finally, I saved the best for last, Okita Tsuji. When Okita uses her Noble Phantasm, she delivers 3 nice simultaneous strikes via teleportation. What I didn't realize until now is that this is explicitly identified as warping. Both Nobunaga and Ruby mention this ability as a counter to Nobu's 3-line formation. However, warping isn't an unrestricted cheat code. It has a high energy cost, and the range is limited by power. For example, Space Ishtar's mana is an old ship with a limited warp range, forcing her to make multiple successive jumps during Saber Wars 2. This also explains why Olga Marie made several warp jumps while chasing the Storm Border, despite being only 10 kilometers away from it. Warping enables superluminal travel, but if your max range is only 3 meters, it doesn't make you invincible. Even Ashtart's dark mana consumed all its fuel just to make the jump from the Sapphire Galaxy back to the Origin universe. On a similar note, Beast One needed to harvest the spirit rons of all humans across 3,000 years to gain enough magical energy to warp back in time 4.6 billion years ago. Finally, we have regular Ishtar, who confirms that she can't warp too far from Venus. Since we've covered combat and travel speed, I want to look at black holes. Throughout the Fate franchise, we've seen 3 different characters weaponize pseudo-black holes. In every instance, the object's ability to warp space to the point where not even light can escape was treated as a massive deal. Interestingly, all 3 users happened to be beasts. The first character to display this was the Beast of Rapture, Kiara Sesshoin. For those who don't know, her Noble Phantasm, Heaven's Hole, uses a subtype of the 3rd magic to draw all life toward her. Its gravitational field is so intense that it functions exactly like a black hole. Escaping it is impossible unless you can move faster than light. This is the specific context for the famous quote stating that A-rank servants cannot escape. Furthermore, because Kiara had fused with Seraph, her hole stretched across the entire structure. Kiara's body at the deepest layer acted as the singularity, while the higher layers represented distances further from the center. As I mentioned earlier, relativity suggests that FTL travel is equivalent to time travel. This was directly referenced in the singularity. BB noted that the higher the main cast moved through Seraph, the further they would travel back in time. Theoretically, they could have traveled back to before the incident began, but doing so would have required superluminal speeds they simply didn't possess. The second instance involves Olga Marie. As previously explained, after their encounter in Olympus, Sion emphasized how terrifying black holes are, reiterating that humanity currently cannot exceed the speed of light. Olga Marie can create black holes that challenge this law directly. This is exactly why Sion believed the Black Barrel wouldn't work on her. It cannot measure the life scale of an entity that exists on a level that surpasses the fundamental speed of light. Finally, we have Anki Ereshkigal in Moon Dubai. She is essentially the deification of a black hole and a beast of the servant universe. Because of this, she produces real-world relativistic effects, specifically time dilation. The closer you move to Ereshkigal, the slower time flows for you. In her case, it's so extreme that 1 second near her is equivalent to 3 hours for someone further away. In fact, even Anki Ereshkigal is affected by her own time dilation. This is why they noted that it took her so long to recharge her sword attack. It's also worth noting that when BB explains this time dilation, she tells the cast that even if they could move at the speed of light to dodge an attack, they would still be caught by the black hole's elongation of space. Once again, this shows the authors are intentionally using the theory of relativity to set the hard limits of the verse. Okay, to wrap things up, I would like to briefly cover Fate Wank. There are 3 main events that people use to overhype Fate speed to stupid degrees, each one dumber than the previous one. Firstly, there is Sasaki Kojiro's Swallow Reversal. As explained in my first video, Sasaki isn't literally performing the 3 slashes himself. There are indeed 3 simultaneous slashes, but Sasaki only performs one of them. What Swallow Reversal actually does is use second magic, that being the ability to connect with other parallel worlds, to overlap 2 alternate realities. What we actually see is 3 different Sasakis from 3 different parallel worlds, temporarily overlapping to perform 3 different slashes. However, the slashes themselves are just moving at normal speeds. It would be as if Naruto used his cloning technique, or if Ben 10 fought alongside alternate versions of himself to jump a single enemy. Having multiple people attacking you simultaneously has no correlation to their actual attack speed. Secondly, we have characters moving inside the far side of the moon, an imaginary number space that exists outside of time. What people fail to realize is that while imaginary number space does exist outside the observable universe's conventional time stream, it still has its own concept of time, as stated in Fate Extra CCC. It just so happens to be recorded time as opposed to perceived time. We know this place doesn't grant characters immeasurable or inaccessible speed because, in that same game, Kiara couldn't fathom how Hakuno's servants can travel faster than light, despite being fully aware that everyone, even Jinako and Rin, can move inside the far side. Finally, we have Solomon's Temple of Time, which is even stupider. First of all, the Temple of Time is a reality marble, which means it would have its own concept of time. As explained in Fate Extra, all the places in the Mooncell Holy Grail War, places like the school building, the Holy Grail Arena, the Colosseum, etc., are different reality marbles created by the Mooncell. These are places inside the near side of the moon. Now, when you cross-reference this with Extra CCC, we learn that the far side is the only place in the Mooncell that operates based on recorded time. The near side the characters used to live in was a place where time flew normally as it does on Earth. Perceived time. This is our first indicator that reality marbles, despite being pocket worlds, have their own time and that it flows normally. On top of that, the Temple of Time is also located inside imaginary number space, which, as I just explained, also has its concept of time. A place that, going by Kiara, doesn't inherently make you faster than light, let alone grant you immeasurable speed. Now, to conclude, let's say everything I explained regarding swallow reversal and imaginary number space was a lie, and they were legitimate feats granting these characters immeasurable speed or whatever. My question then becomes, so what? When you find a contradiction within a story, what do? Do you take the most ridiculous and over-the-top interpretation possible, or do you, on the contrary, go with consistency and lore explanations? In your mind, what should hold more weight? 3 haggard statements that would indirectly upscale the entire verse, even normal humans, to immeasurable speed, or the dozens of statements we have gotten in Fate Prototype, Stay Night, Zero, Apocrypha, Strange Fake, and Grand Order consistently placing 99% of the verse at supersonic speeds? If moving inside imaginary number space, which exists outside normal time, grants you infinite speed, why did Kiara say it was impossible to cross 1,500 light-years in an instant? Why are they consistently shown to struggle against black holes and time dilation? Why doesn't Black Barrel work on someone who can create black holes? Why did BB say A-rank servants can't move faster than light? Why do the gods of light get fatally wounded when they exceed that velocity? In the Fate power scaling community, there are 3 camps. The first one is a group of people who don't care about consistency or logic. They are intellectually dishonest and will always cherry-pick the most over-the-top interpretation possible. You know who you are. In the second group, we have casual fans who haven't read any novel or game themselves. This group is divided into 2 categories. The first one is formed by people whose brains have been lobotomized by Group A. They just parrot what they've been brainwashed to believe without being able to structure any new arguments themselves. The latter is a group of open-minded people, those who are willing to change their minds and wrestle back and forth based on which arguments they find more convincing. Finally, there is Group C, the people who read the novels and have the ability to spot the clear pattern across the different series, the author's intent. People whose egos don't hinge on these characters being as fast as Wally West. Intellectually honest people. Okay guys, that's it for today. If you liked this video, leave a like and share it with your friends. If this video triggered you, touch some grass.